But at any rate, we were in there and the band left, and Steve and I are in the control booth. And this one song, It's Over, is an unbelievably pretty ballad. Steve and I did 28 takes of it.
Right is right, wrong is wrong. Before the night is sure I'll be gone.
It's a classic song. People write me all the time and say, you and Steve should re-record that. Basically, when the songs were all mixed and it was time to go, and I had some record labels interested, I called them up and he said, well, I just joined a new band called Journey. Yeah. So I'm not available anymore. I said, okay. So I was always curious to why Steve didn't want to record any way you want it. And a lot of people, after I did my story about who's the best rock singer I ever worked with, Steve Perry, of course, I told the story, and a lot of people are saying, well, are you saying that you wrote Any Way You Want It, that Steve wrote with Neil Schon? And I said, no, I'm not saying that. I'm saying that I presented a song that had the same lyrics as the chorus to that song, and it had the same music part to Stronger and Stronger that that chorus was put on, and then all the rest was different. So possibly subconsciously, I had a little something to do with maybe of that seed growing into the $9 million flower that it became. Yeah, timing's everything. It was 4 years in LA without taking a break to see any of my family. So after 4 years, I flew down to Tuscaloosa, Alabama. My dad had a farm there. He was teaching at the University of Alabama. And I just kind of de-stressed there, and we're planting potatoes and stuff. And he said, what do you want to do tomorrow? I said, drive me up to Muscle Shoals. He said, what's up there? Yeah. I said, well, there's a lot of recording up there that's just incredible. Duane Allman, one of my idols, who I met a couple of times and even played my guitar on the Whipping Post solo at the Boston Tea Party. That's another story I just sort of glazed over with the Jimmy Page, Jeff Beck, and all that. But Boss Skaggs did Somebody Loaned Me a Dime. And there's a really nice solo on there played by Duane. So we got in the car the next day, we're driving up there, and he said, when we get there, how are we going to know where to go? And I said, well, stop at a music store and I'll ask them where the studios are. Right. He said, okay. So we pulled into the Sheffield Mall. I found the Peaches record store. And I asked the guy, where is it all at? And he took out a piece of yellow legal pad and he drew like a square. And he said, well, we're right here. You go out the door and go straight up this road here. And about 300 yards on your left will be Fame Studio. And I said, oh, okay. I've heard of Fame. That's where a lot of recording was going on. So then he said, now if you go to the end of the street, turn left, and then come back this way, on your left will be Wishbone Studio. And that's Clayton Ivey's studio. And Clayton was a great session piano player. He opened his own studio. And then he said, now if you get down to the end here, you'll hit Jackson Highway, and that's Muscle Shoals Sound. I said, oh, where the Swampers are. I said, okay. So right at that probably moment, the band was cutting the track to old time rock and roll.
Okay. Okay.
Right. So I come up here and go into Fame and leave them all my contact stuff. And Rick Hall wasn't there at the moment. I went over and talked to Clayton at Wishbone. All of that took about a half an hour by the time I pulled up at Muscle Shoals Sound. The band had finished and they left on a lunch break because it was lunchtime. So I came up to the back door and might have talked to Carol Butkus, the receptionist, and she got Jimmy Johnson, rhythm guitar player and producer. And he said, yeah, what can I do for you? And I said, well, I'm Howie McDonald. I'm from LA. There's a bunch of albums I played on and records. And what does it take to play on a record here? And he thought to himself, normally I'd tell this guy where to go, and that's where the sun don't shine. He said, but there was something about this kid. So I said, you got your guitar with you? I said, yeah. He said, well, go get it. And he said, plug in, tune up, plug in. And he said, we just cut this track and play along with it. And when I give you the nod, give us a solo and then just play fills to the end. I said, okay. So it started off and I hear da, 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 da. And then again, and I played a little solo and it left. And later in an interview with the Swampers, when they were being asked about that, Jimmy said, yeah, this kid came up and there was something about it. So I said, I'm going to give him a try. And he could play. He could play. So that was maybe August, because when I got to the Memphis airport, which is where I flew out of, I read in the paper that Elvis Presley had died that week. I put my guitar in the conveyor belt and off it went. When I got back to LA, guitar didn't show up. There was some guy in the back said, oh, this is good. So I got some money for it, but that wasn't the point. Anyway, 2 months went by and the phone rings and, yeah, this is Carol Butkus from Muscle Shoals Sound. And we need your union number so Capitol Records can send you a check for the song you played on, Old Time Rock and Roll. It's coming out on Bob Seger's Stranger in Town album. And we need to get you paid. Right here, this bad boy.
There it is. Yeah, there it is.
At the time I got this, it was over 9 million.
Wow.
And it's now diamond because it's gone much further than that. Well, I thought, all right, I'm trying to get some sessions here in LA, and when this record comes out, it's really going to help me out. So it came out the same time that Rolling Stones came out with the Miss You album. I went to the record store, I bought it. I was so excited. I opened it up. I'm looking for my name on there. And it said, thanks to the Muscle Shoals rhythm section. I was like crushed.
It just said that.
Yeah. Because
you were part of them.
Bob's manager didn't know who had played the solo on it. But when Bob's Greatest Hits came out, they actually did list Howie McDonald guitar.
They gave you credit. Okay, good.
And they gave me credit. And let's see it. Sorry for the screen glare. I do.
Yeah, it's a little glare, but I think we can kind of. I see it. I see it. Yeah. Howie McDonald. Yep.
So, and then not too long ago, I don't feel like getting it off the wall, but you can see up here at Bob's Ultimate Hits.
Yeah.
that would, that's the old time rock and roll, turned out to be Seger's biggest song. And the band, they hated it, but they were on tour in Germany. And Bob said, "Oh, let's close the show with it, with this old time rock and roll." And they did. And they were at the first chorus and everybody was singing it.
Yeah.
And they said, "Holy smokes, this might be something." And it became a major something. In fact, when the Voyagers compiling the stuff to send out NASA
Yeah.
to the stars,
Yeah.
interstellar guitar player right here.
There we, yeah, I see the NASA, the logo there. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
there you go.
on my own records, I've had probably 17 million charted listeners. And then all this Bob Seger stuff, it probably makes me one of the most often heard unknown guitar players in the world. Forrest McDonald, Howie McDonald, I never heard of that guy. Then I reinvented myself as a blues man, moved to Atlanta, started my own record company, put out 15 albums. The biggest show I ever played for was I headlined the Coca-Cola Riverwalk Festival for 200,000 people, which was unbelievable. And then the second largest crowd was the Melbourne Art Festival, 85,000 people. But now I play it a couple of times a year, 4 times a year at a local club for 100 people.
Yeah.
Just because I don't want to travel. In fact, before I left LA, Steve called it quits. He had had an operation on his throat and couldn't sing, and we had a couple of dates up. And Rob knew a sort of a blues keyboard player named Raymond Victor, and Ray was actually on the Asia tour with us. But Ray subbed for Steve one night at Gazzari's on the Sunset Strip when we were playing with Van Halen. And we were doing an easy cover, Tower of Power's Don't Change Horses in the middle of the stream.
Yeah.
It's got, a 4-bar intro. And after the first 3 bars, Ray picked up a big handful of peanuts, cocktail peanuts off, one of the things. He's like that. And it's about 3 seconds before he's got to sing. And Skip Perkins, the bass player, he had never met Ray. He was just going on faith. And he said, "Wow, this guy must have some incredible chops." Because, he's like, and about 1 second to go, it dawns on Ray, "Oh, I've got to start singing it." And
they all come out. Oh man.
But I somehow became the band leader for the Kathy McDonald band, and we toured all of California and were incredible stars up in the Bay Area. And I got to play with one night we were playing at the Lion's Share in San Anselmo, and Mickey Hart, the drummer for the Grateful Dead, and Revenites, the lead singer for the Electric Flag, came in. And we're here, and they're just to my right, on a couple of chairs. And we finished the song, and Nick said, "Hey, can we get up and do a blues with you?" And I was like, "Oh yeah," because Nick did an album with Mike Bloomfield, one of my heroes, and there was a song called "Blues on the West Side" that was really great. So I said, "Sure." So Rob got off the drums, and Mickey Hart got up, and Nick sang this incredible blues, and I was doing my best Mike Bloomfield, and met so many people and jammed with so many people. But Steve called it quits. He moved back to Rhode Island, and I held out until September of '88, 5 years after I arrived in LA. I said, "I'm going back to Muscle Shoals." So I rented a house there, and I played on Bobby Womack's The Roads of Life,
Okay.
which was a really cool album. It's funny, one of the success tips at being a studio player is you really have to get deep into the song and relate it to a couple of things in your mind that it reminds you of, so you've got something to draw from, and then you try it. Well, the first solo I did for Bobby, the song reminded me of House Burning Down off the Electric Ladyland album, and a certain Jimi Hendrix lick. So I threw that in, and we got done with it, and I said, "What do you think?" And Bobby said, "I hated it." It's like that. I said, "Okay, let's try it again." And I said, "Okay, 180-degree shift." And I dialed into exactly what the record was saying, and everything worked out for there. So he gave me $125 for every solo. I eventually went back to New England, and when I got into town, I stopped at a Kentucky Fried Chicken. It was November. It was very cold out, snowy, and there was only one table. All the other tables were full. Man, I sat down there. Now, mind you, in 1967, the Oxbow Incidents played in a Battle of the Band at Cranston High School. And I wore a top hat and a leather fringed jacket, and I played with my teeth, and I rolled around on the floor and everything. We didn't win because they're all rigged, but we were definitely the best showmanship. I'm there eating my chicken, and 4 guys came in. They got chicken, but there was no chairs. I said, "Hey, I got room over here. You guys can eat with me." So they said, "Okay, sure." We got to talking. "Oh, I'm a guitar player, blah, blah, blah." And the guy said, "Oh, yeah, I went to Cranston High School and graduated in '68. I said, "Were you there for the Battle of the Bands and blah, 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 and when the Oxbow Incident?" He said, "Yes, I saw you were the guy with the fringe coat and the top hat."
You remember that?
Remembered that. So, like 10 years later, you're at a restaurant, not my restaurant, but you run into some guy that saw you play. I went over to visit my friend Tony Carey in Germany, and he hooked up a bunch of dates for us. And I had no idea where we were going, and we played Poland and Czechoslovakia, and we went to Prague and all over Germany. We're at this club in Germany setting up, and there's a kid in there, and he came up to me with my Decade of Blues CD, and he said, "Will you sign this for me?" And I thought, how did you get that?
Yeah.
How did you even know I was here? I didn't know I was going to be here. He said, "I got it off the internet." And I said, "Thanks a lot." So you never know when somebody's going to just come out of the blue that you worked with a long time ago. I did hook up with James Montgomery, the harmonica player, and had him play harmonica on 2 T-Bone Walker songs I recorded on my What's It Gonna Take CD. And in fact, we recorded that at Prairie Sun Studio in Cotati, California. And I needed a set of acoustic guitar strings to play this Josh White song I mentioned an hour ago, Southern Exposure. And Raymond Victor, the keyboard player, had a big white beard, looked like Billy Gibbons. He walks in, he said to the guy at the counter, "Hey, I'll take a set of those pre-clipped, pre-tuned acoustic guitar strings." And the guy said, "Sure, coming right up." And then he stopped and he said, "Wait a minute. Do they make those?" Imagine putting on a string that's already tuned up and it's already clipped to the right size. It was an absolutely absurd question, but the guy didn't. "Oh, okay, let me see." Well,
Right. Well, looking back, are there any artists that you haven't worked with that are still around that you would like to?
let me think. Yeah, okay. Well, mm, the Allman Brothers in '69 when I met them,
Mhm.
I brought a 55, my 55 maple neck Strat, and showed it to Dwayne. And he said, yeah, it's nice, but I said, well, I got a Gibson Firebird like Clapton played on the Goodbye Cream album. He said, come by tomorrow night and bring that. So I came by and I brought my college girlfriend, who was also Christine Hayward, and she was Swede and blonde hair and could play, So Dwayne picked it up and played a little bit. He said, nah, it's pretty good. He said, but I just got this Les Paul I traded 100-watt stack for. So I'm going to use that. But Red Dog, bring it down to the stage. Well, Chris picked up the guitar and she played a couple of blues licks. And Dwayne was like, Dickie, you hear this girl? We got your replacement, man. You watch yourself or she's going to be in your spot. Everybody liked it. So we went down for the show and Red Dog had the Firebird. I'm standing right in front of Dwayne and they're doing whipping post. And it was maybe 15 seconds before his solo and he broke the G string.
Oh.
He put his guitar off. He said, Red Dog, throw me the Firebird. And Red Dog grabs my guitar and I see the Firebird launch, flying through the air 20 feet, right into Dwayne's hand. He plugged it in and jumped right in and started that solo. And all of my friends who were there knew it was my guitar. A great, really cool. Well, you may or may not recall that Bonnie Bramlet sang with the Allman Brothers for a while later on. Well, she sent me a postcard to my previous address and it was forwarded to my Muscle Shoals address. But it took 2 weeks for the forward. And the postcard said, Howie, I'm here with the Allman Brothers in a cabin in the woods in Macon. Here's the road name. Come on down. So I threw my guitar in the car. And 2 weeks late, I can't tell you it's not easy finding a cabin in the woods with just some RRFD number, but I found it. And I pulled up and there was a guy outside. I says, is this the Allman Brothers cabin? And he said, yeah, but you're too late. They left yesterday. And so I came within, that close. Did meet Skinner in LA at the Ralph's supermarket. And they were up at the Hyatt and said, come on up and party with us. Marshall Tucker Band, I did like Toy Caldwell's guitar playing a lot. I never met him. And then just about everybody who came after 1978, to me, they were all imitators. I mean, Joe Bonamassa's out kicking ass. Gary Moore, I never met him, but it's too late for that. I probably have met everybody I care to meet. I did meet T-Bone Walker playing at Central Square at Joe's Bar, 1970. I couldn't believe it. I mean, it was a hole in the wall. And I had just seen B.B. King opening for the Rolling Stones at the Boston Garden. And Mick Taylor was on guitar. So I met Mick. Here was T-Bone, who was clearly an originator from those guys. He listened to Blind Lemon Jefferson and Lonnie Johnson. And here he was at the bar on the break, depressed, drinking screwdrivers. I said, can I buy you a drink? And he said, yeah. I said, what are you drinking? Screwdrivers. Okay. So we got to talking, and the gig was over. He stayed at a crappy hotel and got on a Greyhound bus and went to the next city. And the inequality of the distribution of wealth throughout the world just is maddening, without T-Bone. The Allman Brothers did Stormy Monday, and everybody was like, oh, listen to this is great, and even Barry Oakley said, well, we're going to do a Bobby Bland song. No, actually, it's a T-Bone Walker song. Allman Brothers were one of my favorites. Johnny Winter. I met Mike Bloomfield in LA at the Starwood, where we used to play a lot. The Tubes really weren't on my list, but Kathy McDonald knew them, and we went to their record company signing party and show, and that was cool. Did the same for Aerosmith when they auditioned for Columbia Records and that. And in fact, I sold Joe Perry my 100-watt Marshall stack. He and Tom Hamilton drove down to the Cape, and we talked, and he bought it from me. One thing I'll add quickly, I had the perfect guitar band group called The Force in LA. Bobby Zinner was the other guitar player, and we both studied Clapton and Hendrix so much. We'd be in a big jam, and we taped everything on the cassette, and we'd go back to the apartment, and we'd be playing it back, and would say, is that me or you? We wouldn't know. But when the Cream played at the LA Forum, the next day they went into the Guitar Center, and they wanted all new amps. And Bobby had a friend who worked there and said, hey, I've got Eric Clapton's 50-watt Marshall stack. You want it? He said, yes, put it aside for me. So when Bobby and I played together, and whenever I'd look on the back and I'd see that Cream, it was the same stack that I met Eric behind, in 69. It was just like, wow, his amp sitting here.
Right.
It
traveled, yeah.
Yeah, Bobby had a beautiful Tiger Stripe Les Paul. He ran into hard times, and he sold it for $179,000.
Wow.
Peter Green, first guitar player for Fleetwood Mac. He had that beautiful Les Paul, and when he retired, he sold it to Gary Moore, and that was the one that Gary Moore played all the time. The Bridge of Sighs album was just so heavy. And I was playing Laguna Beach and staying at a friend's apartment, and he came in with this Oaxacan pot and hash oil, and we put on Bridge of Sighs and was just tripping out to it, how great it was. Well, Bobby Zinner knew Bill Lorden. Anyway, I played with Bill Lorden, and he was great. And he sent me all these autographed pictures I've got over here, and pictures of him playing with Hendrix and whatnot.
I mean, it's become pretty lengthy.
It's become pretty lengthy.
But you know what? Forrest, I appreciate all the stories. That's what's intriguing and interesting. That's what viewers really eat up. That's what they like. Is the little side stories and the anecdotes, and you did a great job with those.
Thank you. I appreciate you indulging me on my side.
I just like to, press the record and let you guys go at it. This is going to be on my YouTube channel.
Give us the name of your channel.
Okay, for me?
Yeah.
It is Pale Blooms and Beyond. Pale Blooms, like a flower bloom. Pale Blooms, Blooms and Beyond. Pale
Right.
Blooms. Yeah.
Super.
So definitely we'll be posting on that until urge your viewers to visit my channel.
Yes.
Yeah, and definitely, and likewise, and we'll see what kind of responses. What's intriguing to me, what I like the most, and probably yourself, is the responses and the comments.
Mm-hmm. And I look forward to seeing you down the Blues Highway, my friend.
There you go. All right. Well, all the best to you, okay, Forrest, and all the best to you. All right.
Peace, my brother.
Peace.
So long.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Have a great time, my friends. I'll see you down the Story Highway on the next musical moment. with the old-time rock and roller. So long, my friends.